Buenas tardes, familia, and bienvenidos to episode 5 of Cafecito Cuba. I'm Cubano Chris, your host, and thanks for tuning in. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my cafecito. And with that, let's jump right into this week's rundown. So what did we see in the news this week? Well, after spending 33 years as a designated sponsor of terrorism by the U.S. government, Cuba no longer has any activity that even merits its own report by the State Department, which is excellent news. Cuba came off that list of state sponsors of terrorism in 2015 and now keeps moving forward, doesn't even merit its own report. What else did we see? So the U.S. ambassador to Cuba, Jeffrey De Laurentiis, is being replaced in the interim by career diplomat Scott Hamilton. De Laurentiis is finishing his 3-year rotation as ambassador to Cuba. He started in July of 2014, and so Scott's going to be taking his place until the president can appoint a new ambassador to Cuba. What else? Okay, so a group of Cuban entrepreneurs actually penned a letter to President Trump regarding and giving him some policy recommendations, given his stated interest in bolstering the Cuban private sector and seeing growth there. They wanted to basically give their 2 cents and help craft that policy based on what they need and what they think is going to help them grow their businesses. Now, these recommendations mainly focused on increased American travel to Cuba. Here's something they wrote. Most Cuban entrepreneurs view improved relations between the U.S. and Cuba as a net positive for their businesses, and many develop their business model on this premise. So, that's scary. They need that travel to keep it going. That's how they develop their business, on that premise. And, in that light of travel to Cuba, American travel to Cuba is booming, baby. Just today, or just this week, the company Cuba Educational Travel put out a report that basically stated that they've experienced 250% growth this year versus last year in last-minute bookings on both individual and group travel to Cuba. So, as you guys might now know and be aware of, after the policy shift, there was basically this one category that was created to promote engagement between Cubans and Americans traveling to the island, and that was people-to-people travel. And that was found in two aspects. It was individual and group. And so after the policy shift, it's going to slice the individual people-to-people travel and only focus on group people-to-people travel, and mainly in things like education. So Americans have taken this as, like the yellow light means go faster, not slow down. So they're just rushing to Cuba, a lot of bookings, a lot of people getting over there. And so it's awesome. It's all working out great right now. I hope to see that continue. And personally, based on my last trip to Cuba, I would like to work within the constraints and the confines that have been set for me by the government, but create a group educational travel program where people will stay in a private B&B and, it'll check the box on the education requirement, but then they'll have autonomy and a lot of free time to, take private cabs and patronize these local businesses, connect with the people, engage, and really experience Cuba in its changing, transformative time. So it's really exciting. I'd love to set that up. And, with that, that's this week's rundown. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your attention. And Cubano Chris will be back next week. Keep it moving. Síguete moviendo. Pa' arriba y pa' adelante. Thanks, guys.